In the bustling heart of Chicago, where skyscrapers kissed the clouds and innovation thrived, stood Brightview Technologies, one of the most influential and wealthiest tech companies in the Midwest. Known nationwide for its cutting-edge clean energy solutions and smart home devices, Brightview was a symbol of success and progress. The headquarters was a magnificent sight. A towering glass building with reflective windows that shimmered under the sun, polished marble floors that gleamed with every step, and rows upon rows of employees in neatly pressed uniforms moving briskly between meetings, brainstorming sessions, and product launches. But behind the gleaming facade and the imposing security gates, a secret lay hidden. A secret only one man truly knew. David White was the real owner and founder of Brightview Technologies. At just 33 years old, he had built a multi-billion-dollar empire, making him one of the youngest billionaires in the country. Yet no one outside the closest circle had ever seen his face. David was a man who had mastered the art of invisibility, carefully avoiding public appearances, interviews, and social media. His presence was felt but never seen. Why? Because David had grown weary. He was tired of being loved not for who he was, but for what he had. Throughout his life, women had been drawn to him because of his wealth. The luxury cars, the lavish parties, the glamorous lifestyle. But none had cared for the man behind the fortune. They wanted fame, status, and the privileges money brought, but not David himself. He had been used as a trophy, deceived by false promises, and left embarrassed by those who only sought to enjoy his riches without giving anything in return. Each failed relationship left a deeper scar. One quiet evening, in his minimalist penthouse overlooking the city, David confided in his closest friend and personal assistant, Henry. "I'm done hiding," David said with a tired sigh. "I want to find out who will love me when I'm nothing. No name, no money, no fame. Just me." Henry looked at him, a mix of surprise and concern in his eyes. "What are you thinking?" "I'm going undercover," David replied. "I'll disguise myself as a janitor in my own company. I want to see how people treat me when they don't know I'm the owner. I want to find someone who loves me for me." Henry hesitated. "You'll be cleaning floors, scrubbing toilets, working in silence. Are you ready for that?" David smiled, the determination clear in his eyes. "That's exactly what I need. If she can love me at my lowest, she deserves me at my best." The next morning, David began his transformation. Gone were the expensive suits, the perfectly styled hair, and the confident demeanor. He buzzed his hair short, almost shaving it down to his scalp. His skin tone was darkened slightly with light makeup to age him and roughen his appearance. His voice, naturally smooth and confident, was deepened and coated with a rough edge to mask his identity. He wore oversized, worn-out clothes that hung loosely on his tall frame, cheap cotton shirts stained with old sweat marks, faded jeans with frayed hems, and rubber-soled sneakers worn thin at the heels. A battered baseball cap shadowed his face, pulled low over his eyes. David White was gone. In his place stood John, a janitor, just another worker among hundreds in Brightview Technologies. With a deep breath, John walked to the staff entrance, his heart pounding with a strange mix of excitement and anxiety. The security guard at the gate looked him over skeptically. "What's your business here?" the guard asked. "I'm the new janitor," John said in a gravelly voice. The guard took his forged ID card, scrutinized it briefly, then nodded. "Report to the janitorial supervisor. First hallway on the left." John nodded silently and stepped inside. The building buzzed with the sounds of business. Clicking keyboards, ringing phones, soft conversations, and footsteps echoing against the marble floors. But despite the noise and activity, John felt invisible. People hurried past him, many avoiding eye contact. No one smiled, greeted, or acknowledged him. In the janitorial office, a middle-aged woman glanced up from her desk. "Name's Grace," she said brusquely without warmth. "You're the new janitor. Your area is the ground floor, hallways, lobby, restrooms. Supplies are in the storage room. Get started immediately." "Yes, ma'am," John replied. He grabbed a mop, gloves, broom, and cleaning liquids from the supply closet. As he pushed the mop across the shiny marble, he felt the weight of his new reality settle in. The work was hard and humiliating for a man used to power and privilege. The restroom smelled foul. The floors were sticky and grimy, and his hands stung from harsh cleaning chemicals. But John said nothing. Day after day, he came early, worked late, and observed quietly. He watched co-workers' attitudes. Some nodded politely but kept their distance. Others were cold and dismissive. Many simply ignored him, as if he were invisible. Yet John endured, driven by a hope that somewhere amid the indifferent faces, he would find the truth he sought. As the days passed, John, the disguised David White, settled deeper into his new life as a janitor at Brightview Technologies. Each morning, he arrived before the rush, carefully preparing himself for another long day of cleaning. The physical labor was taxing. He scrubbed floors until his arms ached, wiped down glass doors that seemed to get dirtier by the minute, and cleaned restrooms with grim determination. The smell was unpleasant and the work unglamorous, but John bore it all silently. Most employees treated him as if he were invisible, stepping around him without a glance or a word. Some threw him occasional nods, but warmth was rare. To David, this coldness was a stark contrast to the way people behaved around David White, the billionaire owner. One afternoon, during his routine cleaning of the staff cafeteria, John noticed a young woman sitting quietly alone in the corner. She was eating simple rice from a plastic container. Her shoes were worn. The straps on her tote bag were frayed and patched with thread. Yet, despite her modest appearance, there was something striking about her. She smiled gently at one of the older janitors nearby, offering her a bottle of water with kindness and grace. David's attention was drawn to her warmth and humility. Her name was Linda, a junior assistant in the IT department. Linda was known for being respectful, hardworking, and quiet. She avoided office gossip and focused intently on her work. As John passed her table with his mop, Linda looked up and greeted him softly. "Good afternoon, sir." John paused, surprised. "You're talking to me?" he asked. "Yes," she replied with a smile. "I've seen you working hard here every day." John returned the smile, touched by her kindness. "Thank you. That means a lot." Linda nodded gently. "May God bless your hands." John replied softly, "And may he bless yours, too." That simple exchange lingered in John's mind long after he finished his shift. It was the first genuine kindness he had received since beginning his undercover work. Over the following weeks, John observed Linda closely. He noticed how she walked to work each day, carrying her modest lunch from home. No luxury car or fancy clothes, just a humble woman quietly making her way. One day, John watched as Linda shared half of her plain rice with a tired messenger who passed by her table. Without hesitation, she called him over and offered him the food, saying, "Take it. I have enough." Her generosity struck John deeply. Linda's humility and compassion were rare in a place where status and power dominated. Despite her quiet demeanor, she carried herself with dignity and strength. John's respect and admiration for Linda grew with each passing day. He wanted to know more about her, not just how she treated him, but how she lived, worked, and cared for others when no one was watching. Though still hidden behind his disguise, John felt a connection forming, a bond that transcended social status and wealth. While John quietly continued his janitorial duties and grew closer to Linda, not everyone in Brightview Technologies treated her with kindness. The company's general manager, Charles, was a man known for his arrogance and pride. He walked the halls like a king, wearing sharp suits and carrying the latest smartphones. Most employees feared him, and some admired his power and wealth. But Linda kept her distance, aware of his reputation. Charles took an unhealthy interest in Linda. One day, he called her into his office. With a smooth, confident smile, he began, "You're a beautiful young woman, Linda." Linda responded cautiously, unsure where this was headed. "I've been watching you. You're different from the others, quiet, respectful. You don't gossip, you don't beg, and you certainly don't throw yourself at men like some do here." Linda remained silent, uncomfortable with the attention. Charles leaned back in his chair, his voice low and persuasive. "I own this company, you know. The cars outside, the money flowing through these walls. It's all under my control. If you stay close to me, your life will change. I can increase your salary, buy you better clothes, even give you a company car. Linda looked confused but firm. I'm not interested, she said quietly. Charles's smile faded, replaced by a cold glare. So you prefer to walk to work, wear second-hand clothes, and eat plain food for the rest of your life? He sneered. Linda stood her ground. It's better than pretending to love someone for their money. Enraged, Charles began treating Linda harshly. He gave her extra work, spoke sharply to her in meetings, and tried to intimidate her into submission. But Linda refused to be broken. She remained strong, worked harder than ever, and smiled through the pain. John noticed everything from the sidelines. He saw Charles's cruel behavior and Linda's unwavering dignity. One afternoon, during a break in the hallway, John approached Linda. Are you okay? He asked gently. She smiled faintly. Yes, just tired. John nodded. I saw you share your food yesterday. You didn't have to. Linda looked down. I wanted to. Giving makes me feel like I still have something to offer, even when life is hard. John admired her quietly. You have more to give than you know. Linda chuckled softly. You sound like someone who knows me better than I know myself. Maybe I do, John replied with a small smile. Despite her strength, Linda's job was never easy. One day, a young woman arrived seeking work at Brightview. Charles offered her a position, but only if she spent the night with him. The woman refused and left in tears. John comforted her. Come back next week. I'll make sure someone reviews your documents. If you're qualified, you'll get the job. The woman looked at John skeptically. How can Janet help me? John smiled. Sometimes the one you ignore is the one who can help you the most. As the weeks went by, John finally confessed his feelings to Linda. I like you. No, I love you, he said gently one evening. Linda was surprised and hesitant. I care about you too, but I don't know if it's love yet. I need time. Around the same time, Linda's co-worker Sheila warned her. Be careful. He's a janitor, and now that you're promoted, he's telling you he loves you. It sounds like a gold digger waiting for a chance. Linda's heart was torn. Doubt crept in, but deep down, she wanted to believe John's sincerity. John noticed her distance, but promised to wait patiently. Their relationship hung in the balance, caught between trust and suspicion. After weeks of living undercover, John finally decided it was time to reveal the truth. He called for a general staff meeting in the company's conference hall. Employees gathered, curious and whispering, unsure why a janitor had summoned them. John stepped to the front, standing tall despite his simple janitor's clothes. The room buzzed with confusion and disbelief. Even Charles laughed aloud, mocking the sight. Get this man off the stage, he sneered. We're here for company news, not nonsense. But then, the head of security entered, standing behind John. The large screen lit up with the company logo, followed by a recorded message. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Mr. David White, the owner and founder of Brightview Technologies. Gasps filled the room. Phones dropped. The audience fell silent. John slowly removed his cap and sunglasses, revealing his true identity. Charles's face paled. David smiled calmly. Yes, I am David White. I have been working here undercover as a janitor to see how people behave when they believe I have nothing. To find out who respects others for who they are, not for their power or wealth. All eyes turned to Charles. Mr. Charles, David said firmly, your time here is over. You harassed staff, took bribes, and abused your power. You are fired, effective immediately. Security guards stepped forward and escorted Charles out. Linda covered her mouth in shock, tears welling in her eyes. David looked around and found Linda's gaze. There was one person who treated me like a human being when I had nothing. One person who showed kindness and respect without knowing who I was. He walked over to her, got down on one knee, and pulled out a small box. Linda, will you marry me? Tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered, yes. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Months later, David and Linda married in a beautiful ceremony filled with joy and love. Linda wore a flowing white dress, radiant with happiness. David stood at the altar, his eyes filled with adoration. Their story became legendary. A billionaire who disguised himself as a janitor and found true love with a humble woman. Together, they ran Brightview Technologies, leading with kindness and integrity, and they lived happily ever after.